Hello, everybody from all over the place. My name is Nicole Straub, and I am a person in long-term recovery. I became a CCAR recovery coach in 2016, so about 8 years ago, and was able to get state certified in the state of Michigan. So I'm in Michigan. And that I was doing recovery coaching, I was able to get a state certification as an alcohol and drug counselor as well. So I do counseling and I do coaching. About 3 years ago, I became a trainer of trainers, and then last year became a recovery coach professional facilitator. And so I love doing counseling, but I'm going to tell you what, my heart is in coaching, because the boots to the ground stuff that we do is just phenomenal. It's where my heart is at. I do see that a hand is up. Percy, did you have something? No? Okay, I'm gonna put your hand down then. So again, my name is Nicole Straub, and I live in Michigan. I'm in the Genesee County area. I work for an organization called Flint Odyssey House. And so I'm gonna just kind of tell you guys about that in just a second. But I do want to remind everybody, if you are a CCAR coach, you've taken CCAR, you have the opportunity to go through the CCAR Recovery Coach Professional process and become more than just that 5-day training, but fully engaged in the International Recovery Coach Professional, which is pretty cool. And then there's also an opportunity for you to go on and become a facilitator as well. And so I'm not sure if all of you are facilitators or if your coach is looking for more practice, but please, we'll have a couple minutes towards the end where we can talk more about CCAR and how you can advance your career and also become part of the CCAR process, like doing a webinar series or sitting in on the interview process for the RCPs. So I see we got a lot of people still coming in, and so I think it's a good time to start my slides. All right. So the name of this training originally was Professional Engagement Strategies for Peer Support Staff. So, but the main vision for this was that recovery coaches have a foot in both worlds, don't we? We have the authentic, raw, boots to the ground, peer aspect, and then we have this professional aspect with our coworkers, our leadership, and other agencies in the community. And so a lot of this is about being able to maintain your authenticity while creating a professional reputation. We want agencies to know who we are and have our reputations precede us when we go places, right? So I do work for Flint Odyssey House, and we are located in Flint, Saginaw, and Port Huron, Michigan. We have several different levels of care, as you would say. So we have a detox facility, a residential facility, recovery housing, an outpatient. And our outpatient, we have a family outpatient, an adult outpatient, and we have adolescent outpatient. And so all of these different facilities have recovery coaches. And as you guys know, depending on where you work as a coach, your job title or your job description might be a little bit different. And so we, the entire Odyssey family, we have about 45 coaches. And so I'm blessed that after working here for a couple of years with Flint Odyssey, I've been here about 4.5 years now. I also am the recovery coach manager for our outpatient services. So I get a chance to lead and guide and support the recovery coaches that work in the outpatient setting. All right. So I do want to mention, and real quick, I am just as interested in what you guys have to say as you are in what I have to say. So there's going to be several times when I'm going to stop and I'm going to ask for any questions, any comments, and anything that you do. I've got a notepad in front of me, and I am always looking to improve my knowledge and my PowerPoints in whatever you guys have to say. So if I say, is there any questions or comments that you guys have about who I am, what I do, and where I work, I invite you guys to raise your hands and make any comments about that. All right. Well, please let me know. And I will have my email towards the end. Oh, is it Silvana?
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Silvana Proaño.
What's
I'm the outreach coordinator for South County Recovery Center, and we are located in Berkshire County in Massachusetts.
Excellent. So I'm super excited that there's probably people from all over the place. I know I've met Mike Gaunt before, and he's in the same state, and he's just as far from me as probably Tennessee. So he's in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, which is funny. So I see a couple other people I know on here, and I'm just really excited that we get to gather together virtually and combine all of our recovery coaching experiences. So like I said, please, don't be afraid to raise your hands or let me know if there's like comments or, you know, more input that you have on this stuff. So I do really enjoy working at a place where we have so many different levels of care, because it does allow coaching to pop into to look different in these different areas, and watching people grow through the stages of change, right? So they come in all pre-contemplative, and hopefully we get them in an outpatient setting and maintain their maintenance. So the purpose of this training, and this is where my thought process was with this. So peer recovery coaches and peer support specialists are most valuable to clients and their agencies because of their lived experience and personal stories of overcoming adversity, right? That is our golden nugget that we have that other professions cannot do. So when entering the professional workforce, peers often need some direction on how to integrate into the business side of recovery. The purpose of this training is to assist peer support staff in creating professional reputation and relationships in the workforce and in the community, while still maintaining your authenticity, transparency, and integrity in your personal recovery journey. So while it's important to build rapport with our clients and appear relatable, we need to communicate professionally with our coworkers, our administrative staff, and other agencies in our communities. This training will increase your knowledge of the behavioral health workforce, improve your professional reputation, and assist you in developing better work relationships. So I know that for me, when I was about 2.5 years sober is when I took CCAR and became a recovery coach. And honestly, I wasn't even sure what recovery coaches were when I did it. I just knew I wanted to help people, and they were going to pay me to do it, and I was going to do it for free anyway. So I just thought this was a great job. And I was a waitress at Bob Evans, and I don't know if you guys know where Bob Evans is, a little family home style restaurant. And then they hired me and said, here's your office, and go coach. And the idea of professionalism, I had some management jobs before, but nothing that taught me professionalism, especially what is the etiquette in behavioral health. Bob Evans, we didn't worry about things like HIPAA or ethics. We were just trying to be nice to people and hope they tipped us well, right? So being able to go from whatever jobs we were doing into the professional field, and if you relate to this, I'm excited. But I think a lot of you might be in some leadership positions where you've seen coaches come in and they knock it out the park with their clients, right? They are super relatable. Everybody loves them, but they wander around the office and you're like, oh my Lord, what do we do with these guys? And that's what this training is for those people that you're awesome coaches by nature. You've got the passion, but how do you keep your job and how do you maintain a good reputation representing your company out there in the community? So the things we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about your professional peer reputation and what's the big deal about that. communication styles, time management and organization, which is a huge part of professionalism. We're going to talk a little bit about confidentiality and ethics just because it needs to be mentioned. Language and stigma. We're going to talk about networking and role modeling. And then we're going to talk about workforce development. Now, some of the stuff I've got on workforce development is Michigan-based only, but what I'd like to do is also engage everybody who is not in Michigan to hopefully discuss what you know about workforce development in your state locally so that we can get that out there. All right. So we've got a foot in both worlds, don't we? Peer support staff are an integral part of the treatment team. And I'm going to tell you, it's people like Michael Serrano and Katrina Massey and Phil Valentine that made it so that peer support, peer recovery is a valued member of the treatment team now, as opposed to what it was like 10 years ago. We are valued. And it's mostly because of our personal experience with addiction and mental health issues. We know the pain, and we can identify with the struggles that our clients face as they travel their journey through recovery. When we become part of the behavioral health workforce, we gain knowledge of how these systems work and the resources available in our communities. We learn about treatment interventions and the business side of recovery. Whether you work for a profit or for-profit or nonprofit, things are different out there. It's not like just, it's not about just staying sober. There's a lot of the business side. So peer support staff have a foot in both worlds. We have unique perspectives through the eyes of our clients, right? We can see through their eyes and know what they've been through. But we also continue to gain knowledge as a professional treatment team member. So, knowing when to put our professional hat or our peer hat on can be tricky, and that's the nature of this. So, before we get into the next slide, any comments, thoughts? Have you experienced this? Have you seen this? Was this your experience? Do you supervise anybody where you absolutely see this happen?
I don't know. Good afternoon. My name is Percy Smith from Baltimore, Maryland. And it just registered with me about knowing when to put your professional hat on or your peer hat on. And to me, it becomes very relevant because my lived experience will bring me just to that point of me saying, okay, I'm getting ready to start a nonprofit or a for-profit organization. It stops right there. It stops right there because as much as I don't know, I would like to know, but I don't think this is the time for it.
Yeah.
So that's when my horn go off or my alarm go off and stops me and say, okay, you got to redirect this conversation or this engagement. But I know when and when not to.
Absolutely. And it's important that we get taught how to work with our clients. We learn about motivational interviewing and we learn about how to build rapport and we do these role plays and we get really good at sitting down with the client and helping them go through their process. And then we have to decide it's time. Now I've got a staff meeting to go into, or I'm going to an outreach event in the community and setting up and representing my team. Tyrell, I saw your head nodding and a couple of the things I said, so I'm glad you raised your hand.
Yeah, I was given space. I can be a talker. So Tyrell Moyd from Baltimore, Maryland. Just as you were speaking, I am a trainer. Our agency provides a lot of trainings for agencies throughout Maryland. And often those agencies, okay, come in and do the RCA. And here in Maryland, we have the 4 domains and do the 4 domains, and that's it. And after some conversations generally with those directors, about the importance of having the professionalism class included, in that, and a couple others, but specifically professionalism, the analogy that you gave about, working at Bob
Bob
Evans
Evans,
and then,
yeah.
being put into now this role, a lot of agencies, unfortunately, that's a disconnect. So they like you said, they realize, oh, this person is serving, they're great in the community, have such great connections, and our basic classes here in Maryland is helping them to pass the test.
Yes.
It's not really teaching them those skills. So I'm just glad we're having this conversation and that you're bringing it forward because I do think it's relevant to have as we're preparing to serve people well.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you. Thank you. And the thing is we have some amazing coaches. We are awesome trainers, those of us that are training, and we're training these people to be awesome coaches. And we want them to keep their jobs. We want them to move forward in their development. We don't want them getting into trouble with their agencies or in the community. And we want to keep these coaches, in the rooms with these clients doing what they do best. And so it's not like they're not capable of this. But it needs to be pointed out, hey, when you're in this environment, this is the etiquette and these are the things you need to consider. And I'm going to give you my email at the end. And if your agencies want to help your coaches be a little bit more professional, and I don't mean, hey, you need to be more professional, but how? Feel free to email me. We can virtually do some great trainings such as this. So thank you for that. All right, let's talk about professional peer reputation. I think that I know that our CCAR's professionalism is an amazing training and it hits on a lot of stuff because why is even professionalism important? It's just the fact that there's so many things to consider. Being professional builds credibility and trust among our colleagues and clients. Like I talked about earlier, the fact that it's taken 10 years for our profession to be respected as an integral part of the team, we're not just representing ourselves. You are in those boardrooms and in those staff meetings representing recovery coaching as a whole. And you guys know there's coaches out there that are so unprofessional and they're just dumbing down our field because they're out there making it look like we're non-professional. So when we're seen by our colleagues and our communities as professional, it validates our roles and positions. It shows and invites respect and boosts our credibility in the field. And as important as it is for us to build good peer rapport with our clients, they also need to see us, as professionals, not friends, to maintain healthy boundaries. There's a point in which building rapport is great, but then you get to a point where it's almost negative comfortability. And we need to maintain that professionalism with them. And when they start to call us their best friend, we need to reel it back in and help them understand why that's not what's going on here. So when we are out in our communities, we represent our agencies. And I mean, whether you're working, whether you're on the clock or not, the way that we behave off the clock is just as important to our reputations and our company's reputations as when we're on the clock. This is not only applies to work-related events, but also as we go about our personal day-to-day lives. I don't know about you guys, but I can't go anywhere in my hometown without running into clients, former clients, people in recovery. I mean, I can't go into Walmart without seeing 2 or 3 people. So I have to always remember, once a coach, always a coach. And when you work for your agency, you always represent that agency. We as peer support staff represent what recovery looks like. Presenting ourselves as respectable, productive members of society helps to reduce the negative stigma associated with addiction, recovery, and mental health. So we're out there not only as recovery coaches, but we're representing what a person in long-term recovery looks like too, right? So what we're talking about really are 3 things: your attitudes, your actions, and your behaviors. So, question: how are your attitudes, actions, and behaviors different from your clients? And then, what do you see as professional and respectable attitudes and behaviors in others, like that you look up to, you admire? And what qualities and attributes do you admire in the professional environments that you visit? So let's go for the first one, and we'll just try to get a couple people. And I really, really want to hear what you have to say, so don't be afraid. How are your attitudes, actions, and behaviors different from your clients? Or how should they be? Because if they're not different, we have another conversation. But how should they be different? I'm looking for hands. Savannah. And
I
then
believe
Stephen.
it should be always different because, first of all, we have to treat our clients with respect, with dignity, and always use our best of our knowledge to keep professional level. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Stephen.
Hey, it is afternoon, right? Good afternoon. Yeah, so yeah, I'm Stefan, by the way. And I think just in terms of, for me, right, when I think about what was it, attitudes, actions, and behaviors, was it?
Yes.
So, as a person in long-term sustained recovery, right, my attitudes have definitely changed about how I reflect upon recovery, how I promote and encourage, and suggest to people ideas and perspectives on recovery. And my actions have changed very dramatically, right, from that self-seeking sort of, what does they say about obsessive and compulsive behaviors, right? To those things have certainly changed, right? In terms of the things that I want to bring into my life and how I want that to reflect upon me have changed. And one of the things that I believe is valuable in modeling as a coach is, at the very least, encouraging people to reflect upon that, right? Because it's been my experience that a lot of times with these recovery coach trainings, there are folks in the room who are new to recovery. And so I get an opportunity to talk about what that journey has looked like for me in the room in real time. And so that's one of the things I think really as a skillful coach that we can help folks to start to reflect upon as a part of the training. So that's how I've changed in terms of my actions.
Awesome. That's an incredible response to see the difference between what we were like as clients, when we were clients, and then what we're like now as coaches and trainers, and making sure that we don't mimic that old behavior or that old thinking, right? Percy.
Yes, I have to think about empathy, because when I do, run into those peers on the street at Walmart, and their crisis is not my crisis. And so that's when my empathy really has to sink in and slow down and say, wait a minute, this person might be really going through something, even though to me it's not that bad to me. And so, when I'm out and about and I see them and they pull me up for whatever reason, I have to understand that's a crisis to them, because they've never been in recovery before.
Yeah.
Or they just beginning to buy in to recovery, and I don't want to chase them away.
I love that if we start thinking that their crisis is a crisis and we start freaking out and treating it like a crisis, boy, both of us are in trouble. And we need to be able to hold our heads together and say, I know this feels like a crisis, but we are going to get through this together and we have the resources. And so, yes, that's a huge one too, is like being able to keep our attitudes, actions, and behaviors, on a more professional and a more mature level. The other thing that happens is they start to either glorify their addiction, glorify their behaviors in addiction, glorify how much they use, And then, yes, of course, we're supposed to use our stories. How are we using our stories, right? And so we always making sure. And then I want you to think about when you think of the most professional, the most professional person that you respect, how they behave and how they treat others. What is it about those qualities? And start to break it down. What qualities are you noticing in other people? You're like, gosh, that's so respectable and that's so professional. And start to try to implement those types of things in your life. Authenticity, you guys. I love this quote by Brene Brown. Authenticity is the daily practice of letting go of who we think we're supposed to be and just embracing who we are. We put those expectations out there of what people think we think other people think we should be doing and saying. What do we think our clients expect? What do we think our leadership expects? You know what? We don't know. We're not in their heads. And our expectations of ourselves are 100 times more expectations than what other people are actually having on us. So let go of what you think you're supposed to be and just embrace who you are, which is an incredible freaking person that survived addiction, and you actually are out there making a difference in people's lives. The most desirable trait of a peer support is our authenticity. We never have to be someone we're not. And that means that you do not have to change who you are in that professional environment and with your client. You get to be who you are. Being authentic instills a sense of trust and confidence with our clients as well as our colleagues. Blending your true self with professionalism and just involves aligning your values, strengths, and abilities with the standards of your workplace and finding a balance that reflects your authentic character. Be authentic and professional. And that looks different for every single person in here. You have your own professional authenticity. And it can include the qualities that you admire in other people, but you will always be your own authentic self. So let's get into some communication skills. Effective communication is a big part of our job. And it does, if done properly, if done effectively, can make a difference between professionalism and non-professionalism. Okay? So effective communication. It's not just relaying information to a team member. It's making sure they understand what you are trying to tell them. So the receiver also focuses on gaining the entire meaning of the conversation and makes the other person feel heard and understood. So effective communication is giving feedback and receiving feedback, both sides of that communication. And I really like these statistics that I found. 25% productivity increases in teams with effective communication. 4.5 times talent retention is generated with effective communication. 86% of employees cite lack of communication as the cause of workplace failures. How many of you agree with this? Just by a show of your physical hand. How many times have you left a job and it was due to ineffective communication? 97% of employees believe communication impacts their task efficiency on a daily basis. If I would have received better feedback, if they would have communicated it to me properly, if I would have effectively communicated what I was trying to say better, would that change everything in your day? And 28% of employees point at poor communication as the reason for their breach deadline. Sharon. Oh, she's trying to get admitted. I thought she was raising her hand. So, well, I mean, I want to keep going on this, but if anybody wants to pop up and just say what you think, if you have an example or you know, this is something that you constantly see in the workforce, and one of the things that you value the most in your current role, if you love the communication in your job, like that's probably the best thing about it, is that I can go to them, they can come to me, we can speak to each other on a level that we understand, and I remain professional while doing it. I am listening with active listening, with my body, with my eyes, with my ears, right? Stefan.
Yeah, so so I just wanted to say quickly about that, right? I agree totally with these stats, and when it talks about explaining the way that they understand, right? So we think about the different ways we can think about the different ways that people absorb and then retain information. And so what I found, if it's an opportunity, like particularly working with staff, right? Once I've had an opportunity to kind of get a sense about that process for them, right? Like, visual learners, kinesthetic learners,
Yep.
kinesthetic learners, so things like that, are, for me, right, have not always been second nature, right? So as part of my own learning and development, I've gained some insight into that as a way that it can help to have more effective communication. And just really quickly, I had a circumstance with one of my colleagues where I had asked them, or I had shared with them a process that we were going to do, and I thought they clearly understood it. But then they went and did something entirely different. And it took me a day and a half. I had to think about how I was going to approach that conversation with them, right? Like, because my initial instinct was to say, well, how come you did this? Right. Then I had to think about it, so I had to think about my words and the way that I was going to present it. And what I ended up saying is, I'm a little bit confused about what had happened the other day. And, I would like for you to share with me how I can be more clear in my communication with,
Oh,
so that we're on the same page. And they had a really positive response to that. But I had to think about it for a day and a half.
yeah, because we think it's not effective communication if it didn't accomplish what you were trying to communicate. And so when you sit back and go, that person didn't understand me, and we want to blame that person. We want to say they weren't listening. We want to say they weren't doing A, B, and C. I was clear as can be, and they. But I will tell you, I took an amazing leadership class on Monday at our state peer conference. And the biggest thing that they really talked about was it is our responsibility to make sure our communication is effective and make sure that other people understand us by reflective listening or summarizing. But it is our responsibility to make sure that when we're expressing or passing feedback or giving directives towards something, that person understands. It's not their responsibility. Laura.
Yeah, I think that is, you mentioned reflective listening. That's really something that is standing out to me is we have to make sure that, first of all, we provide the proper and clear context for the conversation to happen. And then also make sure that whoever the listener may be, whether it's us or another person, that we're doing the kind of listening that we need to do for that context, for that situation. So that can be either like appreciative listening, empathetic listening, listening to be informed, that kind of thing. I think that's really helpful.
Excellent point. And I have this new Post-it note on my monitor that I put on last week after a leadership meeting, and it says, what style of communication do you need from me? And I don't necessarily need to say it exactly like that. I might be able to tell just by the person I'm talking to. If I'm really paying attention, I can figure that out. But understanding that the style of communication is our responsibility. Michael, what's up?
I believe that, I don't know if you got in my head the beginning of this week or whatever, but I think Mike Gaunt was on the support collaborative yesterday. Did we talk about this?
Who's in there?
It was a few people in there. We spoke about. I brought up the whole effective communication, and I think it's very important, right, when we're coaching. And you brought up like, how would you like? What were you like things that you would like to see, right? And Phil Valentine, when he does the staff meetings, he like twice a year he asks, what kind of culture would you like to work in, right? And I've even used that with recoveries, right? When I'm working with someone and I'll ask them like, what type of recovery would you like to be in, right? What does recovery look like to you, and what and then I talk about the culture too, like what type of culture would you like your recovery to revolve around, right? Or would you like what culture would you like to embed in, right? Because I think when we take our own culture and we mesh it in to the culture that's there, we make new culture, you know, and communication is key, right? That's how you establish that relationship. Conversations turn into relationships, relationships turn into vulnerability, and then vulnerability, I'll tell you whatever.
That'll tell you anything. And that effective communication, whether it's with your professional peers or with your clients, like if they don't understand something, it's not that you're doing something wrong, you're just not matching what their style of communication is. And nothing is right or wrong. It's just like you've got to be able to. There's been times I've tried to communicate something to my client and they don't get it, so they go out there and don't do it, and then they come back and I'm like, what, you know, why did you not understand or do that? And then they explain it to me and I'm like, I wasn't listening. They don't know how to use Zoom. They don't know how, they don't have transportation. I wasn't listening all the way. So I was asking them to do something that they had too many barriers for. Mr. Gaunt.
Greetings from the UP.
Hey.
Hey, so you know, we were talking yesterday too, and it's right back to the three-legged stool and the active listening. We were talking a lot about trust yesterday. And the communication builds trust, which builds better communication because you're not afraid to be open, which builds trust. And so that just expands and fills up the culture. But the scary side is if you are not listening, it can take that process backwards just as quickly.
Yep.
They're all connected together. It's all an awesome spiral if you can do it right and build a good culture.
Yes. And it is about building, because it doesn't happen automatically. And you can undo a really good rapport with some bad communication, just like that. Yeah. Percy.
When I'm facilitating, one of my questions are, does that make sense?
Yes.
And I will gauge the group to see if I can facial expressions. And you might have a person be sitting up there trying to figure it out, and you go back to that person because one person might be speaking for 3 other people who may not understand, but too bashful to step up and say, Mr. Percy, I didn't understand that.
Yes.
And so what I do is try to engage with that person through the crowd, through the group. Anybody else didn't understand where we was going or where we went with that, so we can go back over it? Because I hate to see one person go through my daily training and don't get it, and it might be key to the whole training.
Yes. And making sure they understand you. And you might even say, okay, well, now tell me what you just heard. What did you get out of what I just heard? And sometimes even on a professional level with your bosses, you know, being able to confirm. So what I hear you saying is, we learned this in coach training. So what I hear you saying is, This works with your bosses. This works with when you are communicating and networking with other agencies. So what I hear you saying is this, and they say, yes, you heard that right. Okay, now you can go on with that information, right? So this communication stuff, it is important. So some of the things I put down for this are, with the clients, let the client speak more than you. My favorite thing that they teach me, because I'm a motor mouth, is wait. Why am I talking? And if you find that you are talking more than your client, you need to sit there and think, why am I talking? Because it's not all about teaching, which we do a lot of. Sometimes it's about listening, and they will tell you more than the stuff you even ask them. So ask yourself, why am I talking? Ask questions. What kind of questions? Open-ended questions. And don't just assume stuff. Someone else mentioned empathy. Be empathetic. Talk in a language the client understands. We cannot use substance use disorder professional language with our clients. Some of them have been in and out of treatment so many times, they do get it. But there are times they do not understand what kind of jargon you're using. One of my biggest things as a parent, as a coach, as a person in recovery, I do not make false promises. I try not to make any promises because your clients will hold you to it because you might be the only person in the world that you trust. Maintain ethical boundaries. Again, you're a peer, but not a friend. So we're not better than them. We're on a peer level. We still cannot be friends. And that is the number one problem with coaching, the ethical boundaries, is we cross that ethical boundary and we get too personal of a relationship. And then from then, all kinds of stuff happens. Now let's talk about your coworkers. You're working for an agency, and you've got a bunch of therapists and directors and case managers, and you have to communicate to them. We are representing not only ourselves, but the peer recovery coach profession. So communicate with respect, whether they are above or below your chain of command, correct? Practice two-way communication. Listening is just as important as speaking professionally. Maintain eye contact and avoid distractions. Be present and engaged. That's a good way to get my director irritated, is by texting or messing with my phone or doing something else while they're talking to me. Professional written and electronic communication is just as important as verbal. So I'm not going to get too much into this because we have a time frame here, but if you do not know how to professionally write or electronically communicate in a professional way, there is nothing that stops you from going to a coworker or a supervisor and double checking what you're doing with them until you become more comfortable with it. There have been times I needed to express myself in an email, and I wanted to make sure that it was professional, and I would send it to my boss and say, does this look okay before I send this? And they would actually have some suggestions on what I could do or change. Have a coworker that you trust. Will you look at this email before you send it out? I'm not trying to cause any problems. I just want to make sure it looks okay. That is totally acceptable. But professionally written and electronic communication could make or break your job. Right? Acknowledge, this is another one. So this one I added on here because so many coordinators and directors that I have spoken to in all kinds of agencies tell me that the number one thing that irritates them about coaches is that they don't acknowledge their time. Get to the point and exclude details that are insignificant to the purpose of the communication. So when you are communicating with another agency or with somebody in your office, get to the point. Now, sometimes they will open the door for more engagement. Sometimes they will say, well, tell me what else you guys talked about. Well, whereabouts are you sending them? What agency is that? Then that's an open door to go into more detail. But I will tell you, more coordinators and directors are like, I don't need to know, this is my favorite saying. Are you ready for this? I don't need to know how the watch works. I just need to know what time it is. And that's such a simple thing. I don't need to know how the watch works. I just need to know what time it is. All right. Another thing that we talk about is this clinical terminology. Michael, go ahead.
Yeah, I had a question because when you that slide that you had there about the maintaining ethical boundaries, you
Yeah.
are a peer, not a friend. I got an issue with that because
All right. Let's talk about it.
yeah, because listen, I got friends, right? And I got people that I know, right? And in both aspects, and I got a spouse and I got kids. And every person that I mentioned, I have boundaries, right? And not everybody wants to be my friend.
Nope.
I can't look at it like that, right? I can't be like, I'm gonna come in and you're not gonna be my friend. You're not gonna be my friend. I'm gonna be your coach. I'm gonna be your coach. You're not gonna be. I don't think I could think like that. I
Mm.
think if we put that, I think that's putting a barrier, right? In the sense of if I try to connect with someone and I tell them, hey, I'm your coach, but I'm not your friend.
Well, we don't have to say that.
No, I know that. But
We can.
if they say to me, if I see them, right, and out in the street and they introduce me as their friend, and then I come up to them like, hey, I understand that you're gonna introduce me as your friend, but I'm your coach. I'm not your friend. I don't think I would never do that to anyone, right? And if I'm okay with just saying that's my people's. We can be friends, right? Because if I look at it, the friends that I've had, like that I've had now, we didn't start off as friends.
Right.
We started off as strangers.
Yeah.
And then we communicated, right? And then you cool people, right? And if even the people that I work with 7 years ago that I started as a coach in the emergency department. And to this day, guess what? They're my friends. And I got them on my phone. And some say they started as clients, but I wouldn't call them that. But they're my friends now. They invite me to places. I will go. If I have time, I'll go. And I think that's a barrier when we do that, right? When we use that word, even that word peer, we use that word peer could be a barrier to someone. Because if I tell you there's a peer, your peer is on the other side of this room, right? You're gonna think of someone your age. And then when you open the door, is a 15-year-old kid. And he goes, I'm your coach. How you gonna look at it?
Mhm.
You're gonna be like, well, hold up. That person just lied to me in the other room, told me that you are my peer,
Mm.
but you don't look
Well,
nothing like me.
You would
Right?
have to define the setting in which a peer is led. So when it comes to a peer in what, right? A peer in recovery, a peer and that's at the same level as you in your job. Like,
But then, Nicole, wouldn't it be easier if I was to be like, on this other side of the room, Nicole, there's a recovery coach.
yes.
And now now it's gonna be broad. The
Right.
scale's gonna be broad because now I'm gonna expect anybody to be over there. I'm gonna expect a person just to be over there to coach me.
And I
But if
don't
it-
know who it is. It's just I know what he does.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, and one of the things about I'm a peer and not a coach, is it's not necessarily something that you have to physically define between the two of you. It's more of a boundary maintenance. And so you don't have to define, look, I'm a peer, not a friend. We're not friends. I'm going to help you find friends. See, this is my mindset is I'm not your friend because I'm going to help teach you how to find friends. I'm going to teach you how to make friends with other people because I'm not your friend. But we don't have to say that. That's just what I'm thinking so that I can make sure I establish and maintain those boundaries. Because when I call somebody a friend, and there's acquaintances and friends, and if I call you my friend, I mean something different than an acquaintance. So I think it's more of a mentality than an actual descriptive name that we call each other. Is that fair?
It is, but I'm just thinking about the language when
Yeah.
we speak about language.
Yeah.
It's just when we add those words, like that word into it, like when we're coaching, I think
But
that
what
could
would
be
you
it.
say, maintaining ethical boundaries? What would you say instead of you are a peer, not a friend?
I would say to maintain the ethical boundaries and then just leave that as that. Because then I understand. Nicole, when I use the restroom, I
Yes.
close the door. That's just ethical boundaries that I know, right? I
Yeah.
know that. Those are things that I know as a coach, and we learn those things. But to add that to that, I'm a peer. Like, it's okay to be someone's friend when you're working with them. It's okay. And then the relationships change. The relationships change. That's why when people say I have set boundaries and I used to say that too. And then I learned throughout it, like I don't have set boundaries because boundaries change.
Yes, they do. I love that
So-
you said that. I agree.
Yeah.
Change. They can get stricter or weaker depending on the situation, but
Yep.
they are definitely fluid, aren't they?
Yes. Yep.
So, yeah, thank you for that, Michael. Good discussion. We're going to talk more about ethics and boundaries in a minute. So when the clinical terminology isn't like you have to learn a bunch of stuff, like you have to go to school to be a social worker to learn this stuff. It's basically, you can look at other people's notes and get a little vibe on what you need to do. And you're just speaking professional. We're not talking about things in a street language. Like maybe the conversation between you and your client are using certain terms, but when you're doing your documentation and you're talking about things, there's professional clinical ways. So when you're doing your notes or passing feedback to clinicians and administration, make sure to use the proper clinical terminology. And a lot of it is stigma reducing, like substance use disorder or person in recovery. Continuing your education, huge, through trainings and webinars like CCAR, will help you learn those professional clinical terms used in the treatment field. So there's this big clinical book called the DSM-5, and behavioral health field have embraced, both the DSM-5 and the field has embraced the use of terms such as substance use disorder, and person-centered language to reduce stigma and improve cultural competency. So stigmatizing language is inaccurate, and it's hurtful, and it's disempowering to vulnerable people, and when internalized, it can hurt ourselves. When talking to people with SUD or their loved ones and your colleagues, use non-stigmatizing language that reflects an accurate, science-based understanding of SUD and is consistent with your professional role as a coach. You don't have to talk like a clinician. When quoting a client, it is appropriate to use quotation marks and express what the client said in their own words. So if you are quoting them and they said, I'm a recovering addict, and we would have said that different. If that's what they said, then we use quotes and we say it. Stefan.
Sorry, I couldn't find the unmute button. Yeah, I just wanted to say quickly about the non-stigmatizing language. And where I am, we very conscientiously and consistently talk about that, and it's a changing landscape, right? And I think, I believe that, as we try to be good stewards and good recovery coaches, that the education around non-stigmatizing and person-first language, person-centered language is an ongoing journey. So like, and for me, right, to avoid that whole writing reflex, right, when people are in trainings and stuff and they describe themselves as addicts and dope fiends and junkies, right, and because to your point, right, that's them speaking, and a little bit about how we were talking before about how do people envision themselves in recovery, right? And I always offer to folks like, however you describe yourself, is fine, right? And are those ways in line with how you'd like other people to describe you, right? And
Love
so
that.
so kind of getting them to think about how to, again, right, because people are the experts in their own experience, but also encouraging and suggesting to folks to kind of think about that language that they use to describe themselves and what it feels like when that very same language is directed toward them. So, so I just wanted to say that really quick because I think that this can be, I think that my assumption or my belief is that all of us are well-intended and well-meaning around that. And yet it can be very easy to sort of trip over that piece.
Thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. Excellent. I mean, excellent points. And then in the chat, Laura brings up a good point. She says, isn't the term recovery better than use of a client? And that's a really good point. And I think a lot of times it depends on the environment that you work in and how your agency does. Now we can still use the term any way we want to, recovery. I might probably, instead of calling a client, if that word came up in a conversation, might say recovery. And there's people that say consumers and residents and all kinds of different stuff. So it would be what's acceptable in your agency. But I do love that you said that, Laura, because I think I'm going to be more conscious when I talk to a client about the word client. I think I'm going to try and make a point to say recovery when I'm around clients more often. So thank you for that. So time management organization. I don't know about anybody else, but sometimes if we don't do this right, by the end of the week, we are so burned out. And our to-do list is like a perpetual, never-ending to-do list. And it can get extremely overwhelming. And we feel like there's no way we got enough done today. And you probably did a ton. You probably are constantly busy, and busy is not your problem. It might be an issue of time management and organization. So the first thing we talk about when it comes to time management organization is our documentation. So I know a lot of us are coach trainers, and that's a different type of work day. Those are the fun work days when you get to be in training, right? But then as recovery coaches, when we're seeing these clients, we have to document what we're up to. And my favorite saying that I use is, if you didn't document it, it didn't happen. And I will tell you, whether you are getting surveyed by accreditations or the state, or even your own agencies doing some reviews, if you did not put those conversations and those referrals into documentation, it literally just didn't happen. Amanda, say that, right? It's just definitely one of those things that if you have any conversation whatsoever, put it in documentation. Be clear and thorough with the nature of your session, the resources that you suggested, and whether the client accepted the recommendations. I don't know how many times I see a coaching client and the therapist will say, she said you never called, or she said she talked to you, but you didn't, she still needs all these resources. You didn't give her anything. And I'm like, wait a minute. I told her about place, 3 different places, how to get there, but there's no note that said that I did all that and that she just said, I don't want to do that. I don't want that. So make sure we put that in there. Manager is scheduled to include the realistic time needed to enter your notes. So this is something that I was taught. Book it right into your schedule. So you've got 9 o'clock client A, 10 o'clock client B, 11 o'clock, you're going to run a peer group. 12 o'clock, lunch, take it, go outside, do something, even if you don't eat. And then 1 o'clock, notes, and put it right into your calendar, into your appointment book, into your planner, whatever. But schedule that time. And then when 1 o'clock comes, you can't do anything else except the notes. That was the key. I would put documentation into my schedule, and then I would do other things like check my email or talk to a peer. Then I get my notes done. So in most cases, and I can't speak for every agency, but in most cases, you guys are in charge of your own schedule. They might tell you, this is like a huge thing. They might tell you, you have to run a peer group on Thursday, or there's a staff meeting on Friday. But for the most part, peer recovery, we are in control of most of our schedule. When are you going to see those clients? When are you going to do your documentation? When are you going to eat lunch? And if you just wait around until there's time, I don't know about your job, but that doesn't happen for me. I always have one more thing to do. One more thing to do. Can anybody relate to this or give me some information on what you are experiencing? Is your schedule allow you to free time? Please tell me where you work if you get free time. Hi, is it Natha?
Nita,
Natha.
no, I don't have free time. That's the simple answer. So let's just, I guess I probably realized about 6 months ago, like anytime somebody asks me to do something now, like, right, you've asked me to come speak for 45 minutes.
Yes.
Right, that takes me 3.5 hours to drive, 2.5 hours to prepare a presentation, 2.5 hours to walk around my office and practice the presentation,
Yeah.
hour and a half to edit it and change it. Then I've got to spend 40 minutes looking for the email address where I'm supposed to send the presentation to because I forgot where I put it. So yeah, so I just try to really think about now, before I say yes, I try to always say, can I come back to you tomorrow?
Yep.
And then how much time does that 1 or 2 hours really take to get done? Because 9 times out of 10, I have to really manage that carefully now. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect example. So it's not just the one thing. It's not like, okay, she's got an hour and a half, 2 hour presentation, but she's going to have to plan that a month ahead of time so that she can block off 2 hours twice a week to work on those presentations. And it's going to take her a month, right, to get prepared to do that. I'll tell you, it's the same thing I did with this presentation. I had an outline when I talked to Travis. Said, I want to do this, Travis. What do you think? Travis looked at my outline and my objectives. He's like, yeah, let's do it. So I've spent the last 3 months moving stuff around to make this presentation what it is. It's only a 2 hour presentation, but it's taken me 3 months to get it there, which I was happy to do because I love doing these. But I had to schedule in times and blocks, different times where I'm going to work on that. So that's all I'm asking you to do is you break down the tasks that you have, whether they are go to court for somebody, get a report together, or whatever your tasks are, actually put them into your calendar. I'm going to check my email from 9 to 9:30 in the morning. I'm going to check my email every morning from 9 to 9:30. Don't put a 9 o'clock client in if you know that you're going to come into work and check your email first. So just be very realistic about how you manage your time. Put all those things in that you need, and then when it's in your calendar, actually do what is on there. So when Nathan was talking about, working on this presentation that she had to do, if she blocked off 2 hours to do her presentation, but yet the time comes and she starts doing email and, I don't know, cleaning her office or something like that, then she's not going to get her stuff done. And where is she going to fit that in at? Well, you need to find another slot. So this is the best key. And when I'm going to tell you guys, it takes about a month to do this before you start to feel the relief. Once you get a flow going and you know exactly what you need to do, you've got your meetings in there, you've got your notes, you've got your lunches, whatever. About a month into this, you are going to have so much less anxiety and so much less burnout, and you are going to feel so much more productive without being stressed. Wouldn't that be great? Productive without stress. So in most cases, you guys, we are in charge of our own schedules. And you need to block that time for documentation, checking email, following up on resources. So if you see a client and you say, listen, I'm going to look and see if I can find a free government phone place for you. I know I've heard of a few. Then I need to block off a half hour to make a bunch of phone calls or whatever. But I have to put it right into my calendar. I read a book, and it was by Harry Jensen Kramer, and it was called Your 168, and it's on values-based living. And he says, we have 168 hours in a week, everybody, all of us. Planning ahead to make your time the most efficient will help you be successful and more productive, but most importantly, it will reduce burnout. So I do highly recommend reading Harry Jensen Kramer's book, Your 168. It is a phenomenal way to feel like you live a values-based life. And it's not just work, life, work, home. It's an amazing book. Highly recommend. All right. The other thing I put down about organizing and prioritizing. Create a way to list your tasks, track your progress, and set deadlines to complete your tasks. Most people don't even realize if you were to tell somebody, if somebody were to jump into your job, would you be able to list all the activities that you do? Because there's so many things we do just subconsciously because it's what we do. You know, take a look at that task list. Developing professional integrity, you guys, is so important. Follow through with what you say to your clients, but also to your leadership. Staying organized decreases stress and burnout and improves productivity, and it improves the rapport you have with your clients because you're not sitting there like, hurry up, let's finish this session because I got 10 more things to do, right? You can be more present in your session. Always, this is the key to also organizing your schedule. Always remember to schedule your client's next session before they leave. So you're not trying to track them down later, or you're just trying to bump it. Oh, I'll probably see Joe sometime next week. That'll get you. That'll get you bad. So always make sure that you schedule the next session before they leave. Another book that changed my life, not only just with leadership, but time management, is Stephen Covey's book, First Things First. He presents an effective way to prioritize activities by urgency and importance. Fabulous book. Base your decisions on actual urgency. And we talked about this, I think Percy was talking about this. Actual urgency and importance, not necessarily that of your clients. Because everything they come to you with is urgent and important. And it might not actually be. So that's our job, is to know that. And one of my favorite sayings that I tell people all the time, busy doesn't always equal productive. And that's why you get to a Friday and go, I didn't get shit done this week. Because you were busy, but possibly not productive, right? All right, so this is out of Stephen Covey's book, you guys. This is just like mind-blowing. So there's these quadrants. And you guys can screenshot this, or I can email the whole thing. I'll email you the whole presentation if you want. But he talks about the difference between urgent and not urgent, and important and not important. And when you can learn how to take your tasks and your clients' issues, because we do teach in the 5-day training, we talk about what's a crisis and what's not. Needs to be done by the end of the session, or not a crisis. And so I really like the way that Stephen Covey laid this out, because if it's urgent and important, if it's important and urgent, then we need to make sure that we're getting it taken care of, really fast. If it's urgent, but if it's not urgent, but it's important, I definitely needs to be in my top, 3 priorities. But then there's like busy work. I love this. It says busy work, some email, like, certain emails, personal social media, some phone calls, time wasters, pleasant activities. Those are not important and not urgent. And the results are total irresponsibility, fired from jobs, dependent on others or institutions for your basics. So when we're doing a lot of this, instead of a lot of this, it's definitely going to be a problem. All right. So we're going to kind of go through confidentiality and ethics a little bit fast, because we have all had ethics. We take ethics all the time. But there is a difference between HIPAA, the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, and something called 42 CFR, which just recently in February, they updated it a little bit. Doesn't really change a lot of what we already do. But when you're talking about HIPAA, this is the federal, this is the Department of Health and Human Services federal. So it protects people's sensitive patient health information without being disclosed. And 42 CFR not only does that, but it actually says we cannot even confirm or deny that you have a substance use disorder in any way, shape, or form. I cannot make any assumptions or comments or allow any of my documentation to be shown. Oh, that person's, has a substance use disorder. So 42 CFR is a little bit stricter when it comes to people with substance use disorder than HIPAA. And HIPAA's been around a while, 96. Do you guys have any questions on HIPAA and 42 CFR?
I just have a quick comment and reflection. I mean, it seems like there's some people that aren't stateside on this call, so I would wonder like what this looks like for them.
That are international?
Yeah, or if they have similar kind of privacy protections, confidentiality regulations.
Yeah, Nathan's got her hand up. Tell us about that. I forgot that we have some international. Thank you for putting it down.
So in the UK, we have what is called GDPR, which is the post-Brexit, which we won't talk about, how we have to manage data, store data, etc., like that. The thing that I think is really relevant for this conversation is substance use is not a protected status in the UK.
Oh, wow.
You can be discriminated against because of your substance use disorder. It is not anything. Yeah, we have very strong conversations about it. It is a reason somebody can be terminated, from a job. I was just speaking to an organization and they said that they hold a master database for this certain trade in the UK. And the minute somebody loses their job for failing a drug test, they are wiped off the whole trade list. So that means they are unemployable in that field for any organization in the UK.
Oh.
So I just said, so if somebody had cancer, and would you terminate them? Would you then take into consideration that they could lose their house, their mortgage, their family would be homeless? It's just a whole hot mess over here. So yes, we do have very good GDPR in the sense of that's more about a reason to sue me for not keeping records versus protecting somebody's. So it's for the organization's protection versus the recovery but challenging and different conversations happening here.
Oh my goodness. I cannot imagine in the States, you cannot confirm or deny that somebody has a substance use disorder. Even if I say something about them being in recovery or you just can't even insinuate they have one or you break 42 CFR. And Nathan, I can't imagine how hard that must be for you to watch people be stigmatized and judged and losing jobs over having a substance use disorder. Because if somebody had diabetes and lost their job because they ate too much sugar, that would be insane to think of, right? Oh my gosh, she's got a drawer full of candy. We need to fire her. It's insane to think that. So I am so excited that you brought that up. And I've written some stuff down. GDPR, right?
Yeah, if you look up GDPR, that's like the overriding reporting for records and things like that. And there is patient confidentiality for medical conditions, but we're still battling, is this a health condition or a criminal justice issue here?
Oh.
Just think I'm in a little time machine that's gone back 12 or 15 years, and that's me cruising up.
Well, thank you for being a recovery warrior over there, because I know that you probably have a lot to say over there. Reggie, what were you gonna say?
Hi, that's really amazing what you said, Nita. Just one question about that. Are you saying in the private and public sector, there are no like EAPs, no employee assistant programs for that? It's that nobody?
All right, so I'm gonna let y'all in on a little secret. This young lady here, 55 years old, is about to go speak for the first time at the UK Better Health at Work conference, and they have never had anybody speak about recovery in a workplace. So I am on a mission to
Oh,
start seed planting recovery-friendly workplaces and CCAR training about how to establish recovery workplaces. So yeah, so I am on a mission. So if y'all want to join, you are
God bless
welcome
you.
to hop on board. Yeah.
Oh, Nathan, I would like to get some contact information from you before, because I can't wait to watch the changes that you make happen in your whole country. And encouraging everybody else in your country to do the same. Oh man, that's awesome.
But you know what? I have to tell you something. So we started talking about recovery-friendly workplaces here
Yes.
in the UK. The doors didn't get shut. The doors got shut with brick walls built in front of them. But I have signed up 2 companies in the Middle East who want to become the first recovery-friendly workplaces in the Middle East.
Look at you. You guys, we all can have just as much of an impact and make a difference on our areas, our communities. But Nathan, I can't thank you enough for making our world, this is how you reduce stigma. This is one of the big A's in what recovery coaches do is advocacy. And look at her out there making changes, you guys. All right, Nathan, I can't wait to watch your webinar. She's gonna have one. You just know it. Keep an eye on her, you guys. So we all know about CCAR's code of conduct, right? I mean, the big thing about CCAR's code of conduct, and they've got all kinds of stuff. This is just basic respect of our clients and our organizations. And the CCAR code of ethics is on the website. It's talking about your personal conduct. Work to resist gossip, hearsay, and rumors. Like, this is how we carry ourselves. Responsibility to people in recovery. This is how we treat them and advocate for them. And then responsibility to the organization. We are representing our organizations. So I don't think there's anything on here you guys haven't seen, so we don't have to go through a lot of it. And you can absolutely go to CCAR's website and get the basics. And all of your agencies, I'm sure, have a really strict, and your state have a strict code of conduct and code of ethics. So let's just talk real briefly about language and stigma. And there's a couple slides I would screenshot. They're pretty good. So what is stigma? So we just actually just talked about this. Stigma is a discrimination against an identifiable group of people, a place, or a nation. Stigma about people with SUD might include inaccurate or unfounded thoughts, like they are dangerous, incapable of managing treatment, or at fault for their condition. And that's what Nathan was just saying, is that's how this is how they look at people with SUD. And I know that she's going to make a huge difference to start reducing that. So you guys, getting in arguments and fighting with people over stigma is a waste of time. Use your voice more appropriately. For people with SUD, stigma may stem from antiquated and inaccurate beliefs that addiction is a moral failing, which is what we know it to be, instead of what we know it to be, which is a chronic, treatable disease from which patients can recover and continue to lead healthy lives. How does stigma affect people with SUD? Feeling stigmatized can reduce the willingness of individuals with SUD to seek treatment. I do not want to go in there and tell that person I'm struggling, because it could impact my life. Stigmatizing views of people with SUD are common, though. This stereotyping can lead others to feel pity, fear, anger, and a desire for social distance from people with SUD. So now you're stigmatizing addiction, and the people in the community are seeing it. Stigmatizing language can negatively influence healthcare provider perceptions of people with SUD, which can impact the care that they provide. That's the biggest issue, I think, on a lot of levels, is the medical community stigmatizing us and keeping us from appropriate care because of our addiction. I'm 10 years clean and sober, going to be 11 in September. And a doctor that's going to talk to me about what I did 10, 11 years ago could impact the kind of care that I get today. So, in the instance of time, I'm going to keep moving here. So I think we all know, and the stigma and addiction is a huge thing. You're welcome to screenshot anything, or like I said, I could, send you the PowerPoint. I like these, you guys. I stole this from a page, I've got it in my resources here. This is something when you're talking to other people, I think this is just what we do as coaches. But they talk about person with an opioid use disorder instead of a user. Person with alcohol use disorder instead of an alcoholic. Person in long-term recovery. Person who previously used drugs. Why should we do this? Person first language. Person first, person first, person first. The change shows that the person has the problem rather than is the problem. Make sense? They talk about using the word habit, but instead using substance use disorder, drug addiction, opioid substitution replacement therapy, medication assisted treatment. This is becoming extremely common. This is how people talk. But just because somebody else is talking one way, you guys, we can use the language that's appropriate. And I will tell you, they will start to mimic us. Have you ever had a conversation with someone that keeps saying medication assisted treatment and you keep saying medication assisted recovery? And eventually, if you say it enough, they'll mimic you and start saying it. So don't stop using destigmatizing language. Clean and dirty is another one. Ooh, gosh. Positive or negative? It's because it has to do with the test, not the person, right? All right. Networking and role modeling. I will tell you guys, one of the biggest ways to gain resources and open the doors to be able to offer your clients more services, knock down barriers, is by networking and role modeling. This is a huge one for me. And anybody who knows me knows networking is huge. When I go to an event, when I go to a conference, I want to meet as many people as I can because they know a bunch of stuff and do a bunch of stuff that I don't. And the great thing is, it's not about competition. It's about offering the clients or the recoveries as many services as needed. And sometimes those services might be more appropriate elsewhere than with me. And the important part is getting them what they need. So strengthening community relationships. I had a director once tell me, Nicole, you need to play nice in the sandbox. And that means I don't have to hang out with those people on a regular basis, but when it comes to professional atmospheres and environments, I need to play nice. Strengthening community relationships. Fresh ideas. Have a conversation with someone from another agency and find out what they're doing. You're going to find all kinds of cool stuff that you can do. Raised profile. People start to get to know you and you get to know them, and they're going to say, oh yeah, Amanda, she's out there in Shiawassee County. She's the girl you want to call in case you need something out that way. Access to career opportunities. Come on, you're always looking. New information and resources, advice and support, and tons of advocacy opportunities. I just walk into opportunities. Like, I don't know if you guys are familiar with NADAC, the National Association of Addiction Professionals. In the United States, there is a national association for addiction professionals that includes coaches. And there's a whole coaching program, and you can get a national certification. And so each of your states have their own affiliate of NADAC. And the advocacy opportunities are endless, where we can make a change in our state. And I'm sure Natha, she's done enough research. She knows there are some people out there that are advocating for change. And she's probably, that's how she ended up. Man, is that going to be videotaped, Natha? Because I seriously want to watch that YouTube video.
I will find out for you.
Oh, I want to know where to find it on YouTube afterwards. So more reasons to network. And this is, I don't know if you guys are familiar with NASW, but it's the National Association of Social Workers. So I got this from them. They're talking about opportunity. Anytime you're around others, virtually or in person, you have the opportunity to meet people and uncover what they have to offer in your life. How about finding common ground? Everybody enjoys the company of others who are like-minded. Oh my gosh, we have so much in common. Our common interests help ignite our passion for the profession and encourage personal growth. Exposure. Exposure. Have you written new research? Starting a new practice? Did you make a new training? Don't you want to expose others to it and share your wealth of knowledge? And up here they talk about context and relationships, whether finding a new job or a resource for your client, or simply someone who simplifies your life because they do something you do. And oh my gosh, it'd be so nice for other people to do that instead of me having to do it. Tons of referrals and learning. In the line for breakfast at a conference or answering a post on LinkedIn, professionals who participate in networking gather information and ideas at a fast pace. Knowledge is power. All right, I'm going to call one of our participants out for a minute because she is amazing at networking and resources. So I don't know what she's doing. Where is she at? Oh no, did she go? Oh, she did. So my friend Amanda was in here and she works in a county right next to mine. And we just got done doing a state peer conference and literally standing at the breakfast line, there were just tons and tons of opportunities to meet people from all over the state to do the coolest stuff. And those resources that I brought back from that conference are so valuable. And I don't even know when it's going to be valuable. Sometimes it's awesome and it's a great resource. I don't have anybody that needs it yet. You guys ever get those? Like, this is an incredible resource. I don't have anybody that needs it yet, but I know if somebody needs it, I know I've got it now, right? So, yep, networking is super important. All right, so after that, role modeling. Recovery coaches represent our profession and our agencies during business hours and on our personal time. One of the points I want to make out is your social media. It is either open to the public and you represent yourself professionally, or you have it private and you don't allow clients and you don't allow certain people, and do what you want. But remember, anything we do online now, it's pretty hard to not be traceable. People will find it, and your clients will find it, and your coworkers and your boss. So it's important to maintain professionalism and healthy reputations, whether out in the community or on social media. So just remember, if it's online, we need to make sure that it's either private or, it's going to be out there. So the last thing we're going to talk about is workforce development. Now, this is going to be different from state to state, and I'm sure it'll be different in countries. But credentialing and development. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the opportunities. CCAR offers a certificate of completion after attending their 5-day, right? So you can go through the 5-day and become a recovery coach. And then you can become a recovery coach professional. So is there anybody here that has not become a recovery coach professional? Have you done the interview with Katrina? Has everybody done the RCP? Okay. And you've done it. No, you haven't. Roderick, you have not done it. So you've taken the 5-day CCAR? Yes, but you haven't taken the RCP and the interview and the extra trainings. All right, huge benefit to this. And you get a really cool pin. Take your RCP, do your interview. And this makes you an international recovery coach professional. If you really like your 5-day and you really want to start teaching, get your facilitator credentials. It is amazing to facilitate this and watch people in the community who have built their recoveries into something solid, and then watch them become a recovery coach and then follow them in their career. It is exceptional, especially when you see somebody and you get to like help you coach them, and then they take your training and then they end up being a coworker. Has anybody had that experience? Yes. It is so awesome to watch somebody grow up in recovery, and then you watch them grow up in their careers and see that full circle. And then they start coaching people and making changes. So the coolest thing about doing this job as a recovery coach, or especially as a facilitator, is how many people can you help in one day? I mean, if you work 8 hours or 10 hours, you have a max. You can only help so many people a day physically. But when you train people to be good coaches, those coaches go on to help all the people they help in a day. So becoming a facilitator duplicates yourself, and you get to continue to work with them and train them and supervise them and support them, and think of all the people they're helping because of what you did. And it's a way for us to continue multiplying the people that we help every day. And it's so important. I can't say enough about the credentialing process. It is just amazing. Hang on one second. I just pushed the wrong button. No. All right, I'm going back. We're almost wrapped up here, but I do want to have a lot of discussion about a couple of those things. I'll get back on the right slide. Any thoughts or questions on anything? I haven't really stopped to talk about the last two things, which was language and stigma and networking and role modeling. All right. All right. So after the CCAR training, your state, almost every state in the United States has a state certification for recovery coaches. Michael would probably know more than I do about how most states have some type of state certification program. Some of those have recertifications. I wrote this training especially for the state of Michigan slide. And so go and figure out what your state certification is. Some of the states also have other credentialing as far as coaches go. In Michigan, we have something called McBath. And then again, I want to talk about NADAC. So are you guys familiar with NADAC and the national certification for peer recovery support services? Are you guys able to see this website? Yes? Okay. So this is NADAC, NADAC.org. It's been around for about 38 years. So it's not new. And NADAC actually stands for National Association of Alcohol and Drug Abuse Counselors, which they understand the language has changed. So instead of changing just the letters, what it stands for, it changed the name. It's now the Association for Addiction Professionals, and that includes us. This is the Peer Recovery Support Resources page. So it will tell you how to get your national peer recovery support. There are tons of webinars, along with the ones we talked about with CCAR. There's websites, there's support services, and then the NADAC membership. So it's a little bit cheaper for coaches than it is for the counselors. And you can be on committees and national advocacy, just like what Nath is doing. She's doing national advocacy. And this is how we can do that in the States. Lots of different supportive services, right? So there's a whole bunch of stuff dedicated to recovery coaching. So let's open it up to some discussion. Anybody, any comments on the last couple things we said? Nathan?
I just want to give y'all all a great tip that I have started using regularly. I have a lovely t-shirt I had made, and it says, "Ask me about recovery coaching" on the front of it. And then I go to networking events where there will be nobody talking about recovery. And I just plunk up there, and somebody will say, "Do you do recovery coaching from cancer?" And I go, "No, let me tell you what I do." But I have figured out if I try to put myself in a space where people are talking about clinical addiction, medical, etc., I am not seen as an equal. I am not seen as a professional. But if I rock up to a mums, my latest one was Mums in Business, not moms, because we're in England, mums. And there were about 72 women there. I ended up with 5 people joining a Recovery Allies training. I then got asked to come and talk to the group next time about the work I did. And then somebody at the end of it came up to me and said, "I think my child has a problem, and I didn't know what it was till you came to talk." So I did this at a community center. It was an old folks activity. They were sick of having bingo. I said, "I need to practice a speech. Can I come practice to your group?" Everybody in the room was over 55, under 90. Okay. I had a man come up to me. He was 76, and he said, "Am I too old to be a recovery coach?" And I said, "No. And so let me give you a free spot on my training."
Yay!
So go to places where we do not think we will be welcomed, or where people need to talk to us, and just wear a flipping shirt that says, "Ask me about recovery coaching."
Yay! Nathan's going to change the whole UK, you guys. And that is exactly, I will tell you, you guys, if Nathan can do that in an environment that is so stigmatizing and so judgmental, the United States is not the greatest when it comes to how they treat people in recovery. But we do have some things going for us. And I know that it's not easy sometimes to be out there. I know that when I do Narcan trainings, trying to convince people to carry Narcan that are in these hoity-toity cities, I'm like, listen, you got bathrooms in your gas stations, you got some fast food places with bathrooms, just carry the stuff. And so doing advocacy is really, really important, and making those changes. All the stuff that we do in the United States that Nathan's fighting for, somebody fought for that. And a lot of times it's up to us to keep it. I have a shirt that says, that I got from a recovery coach training, and it says, "By our silence, we allow others to define us." And I just think that's really powerful, that if we sit back and we don't use our voices, then other people are going to define us, or we can stand up and define ourselves. Thoughts or comments? Some of the people maybe I haven't heard from, what's your experience with coaching, and what did you think of some of the things we discussed today? What's your experience in the field, and did any of this help you today? Yeah, Roderick, do you know how to unmute yourself? Touch your screen and then hit unmute.
Oh, okay, there you go. I've been trying to get on there. Sorry about that. I apologize. How everybody doing today?
Hey,
I didn't heard a lot that's inspiring. It's a lot that I did not know. And as well with me, I had made a shirt as well. It's called Trust the Process. Is because that's what my little clothing business that I just made. But it's a lot of things that y'all brought to my attention that I have to bring to my attention to my job because I work in detox. Soon when they come off the streets and like I was telling them, that I have a program in my life that I have to go by to deal with them.
yep,
I meet them where they at. That's me. They always gravitate towards me than the other coaches. And that's a great feeling. I don't compare. I identify.
mm-hmm,
I don't never compare. Cause if I start comparing, but I like what y'all said yesterday, because I think that's what I supposed to do yesterday, was listen. I think he wanted just the ear to listen. But when I was brought to recovery coaching, they told me if I can't help you out, I got somebody else that can help you out. That was the main thing. So I was like, look, I got a great person that you can speak with. So I escorted him towards Nicole, cause there we busy, we moving, and I'm trying to figure this out. A group, people leaving, people going. I'm making calls. It's so much but I liked that overwhelming part as well too. But I did not know that you build your own schedule.
you do. If you
I
think
didn't know
if
that
you
because
think
where I
about
work
it,
at,
well,
they don't let you build your own schedule.
well, what I'm saying is if you take, okay, first of all, we have to be absolutely flexible because just because you put it in your schedule does not mean it actually turns out that way. Am I right?
Right.
You probably have a flow to your day. You know when breakfast, lunch, and dinner is in detox. You know when you have time to see your clients and when you don't. And you know that there's a flow to your day. And so the way that you know you have time to do your notes, you have time to see your clients, and make sure that you leave yourself time to do all the things you have to do instead of just back to back to back to back. And then you leave work and you're like, I didn't get anything I needed to get done today. That's where you can start managing that schedule. So thank you for that, Roderick, and thank you for being out in the field coaching with us. I'm going to call on Percy, but I do want to put
Thank you for that advice.
Thank you, Percy. Keep coming to the collaboratives and stuff. That's going to be awesome. So Percy.
All right, I just want to, I got two-part question here, or a statement and a question. To Brother Roderick, get yourself a planner, brother.
Yes.
Okay.
Get yourself a planner. And
Okay,
that
thank
way, when you start your week off, like she said, you know you have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you can slide Percy in there from, say 2:30 to 3:30. Right? You can put your little doctor's appointment on Zoom at 9:30. That way you'll know how to fit your personal stuff along with your professional stuff to help yourself as well as the peers.
Okay.
Okay. Now,
Okay.
the authentic self.
Yes.
Authenticity. My men's group is to know your authentic self. That's our motto. And to know your authentic self is to really get to know who I am. And once I found out who I am, it becomes to get bigger. And then I slid over to weight.
Yeah.
That was new to me today. Weight.
Yeah.
And I kept saying to myself, wait, why are you talking, Percy? You know, what's the need of you talking?
There is sometimes though, there is an absolute need and value, and it's okay if we're expressing something, if we're giving hope and encouragement and experience strength and hope, right, Percy?
That's right. And so basically, most of the time, why I'm talking is because I'm trying to help somebody. I'm trying to guide somebody down a recovery path. Not mine, but theirs. But so you know, with the weight piece, I have to add that in. I don't know who thought of that, but I'm gonna steal it for the day.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah,
all
right,
of
right.
them. I tell everybody I don't have a unique thought in my brain. Everything that comes out of my mouth, I either stole it from someone else or it's spirit speaking through me.
Right.
So you keep doing what you're doing. I'm so glad you're working in the detox and, you know, helping these people try to transition to something instead of just getting off sick and back on the street, right?
Right.
Awesome.
Because they look at me like I ain't never been in, like I'm not in recovery. So they had to ask me, "You in recovery?" And I answer yeah and stuff like that, is because when I started talking to them, they say that I have a old soul. And I always tell them, you you're in recovery when you say you're in recovery. I can't tell you when you're in recovery.
But I know, and it's amazing when we share a story, right? It can be so relatable. And that's
Yes.
amazing, Roderick. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nathan, what you got?
I just want to say I appreciate your praise and, you know, celebration of the work I'm doing, but the moments like that always remind me that I have to go back to sort of those stages of recovery, and I have to recognize I am both insignificant and precious.
At the
And
same time.
without all the people who have been on probably hundreds of webinars like this one that I have attended, who, like you said, have given me nuggets, information, and I have put them together in my own recipe but without all of you here cheering me on, giving me information, sharing the paths you have walked, you know, Michael, Stacy, Phil, all the flipping fabulous people at CCAR, you know, none of this work would be happening because I cannot do it alone. And Phil tells me I shouldn't say I'm standing on the shoulders of giants, but who am that one? Because I believe that sometimes we can't do this work alone unless we feel like we have people behind us. So I just want to say I am both precious, but I am also quite insignificant. I am one little piece in this cog, but if I can make a difference that moves the cog a bit more, I'm happy to do that. So I'm really grateful for all of y'all.
Thank you so much. And I'm so excited you guys are in here. And I am gonna put my my email in the chat. I know I had it up on the screen. But I would love to chat with anybody and you know what you're doing and please Nathan grab my email and just email me so I have yours. I have to follow you. We've got a couple minutes left, and is there anybody that hasn't said anything that you want to give your experience with professionalism or just tell me where you're from and what you do at your job that I haven't heard from yet? Maybe Ashley or Emma. Or James, is it Velia?
Hi.
Hi.
Hello. Sorry.
Hey.
Yeah, so I'm in the UK and I work in a community drug and alcohol service. The organisation's called Forward Trust. So yeah, I'm doing the recovery coach professional training, and I'm doing the whole thing. So really looking forward to sort of all these sessions. I'm really loving them.
Well, I am so excited for another person that's going to be out there making a difference and you know, teaching people how to do this is really cool. I mean, seriously, the most amazing things is watching a person in recovery turn into a staff member, like a coworker, or, and you just watch them like carry the message, and it's just amazing.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you so much. Anybody else? James, do you want to introduce yourself and where you're from?
Yes, hi, my name is James. I work for Alliance for Positive Change. SERPA trained here with them. We have lots of SERPAs here. Today was a very busy day. We did a lot of groups and things like that. Talking to clients. I'm off kilter right now. But your group today, I love the information that you gave out today. A lot of stuff I could relate to. Thank you guys. I want to be in another one of your groups. These little nuggets you pull from each other, and then I hear you repeat some of the things that I do. So that was refreshing.
Thank you so much. And it is, it's nice to hear it from other people, like that these types of attitudes, actions, and behaviors actually make a difference. So I just really want to thank you all for showing up today, and don't forget to continue checking the CCAR website and the webinars for all the trainings that come up. And I want to encourage you to email Travis and let him know about the training you want to create. Because that would be really exciting to watch all of you think about something that you want to create a training, and get a hold of Travis, and let's get you on here as a webinar too. So thank you. And Michael, I cannot thank you enough for sitting through this with me and helping me carry this message.
It was a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you all. Again, this is a free webinar to watch, but if you care to get credits for it, there is on the chat a link to do so. And I also will put in my email address if anyone has questions.